I want to start with, well, why do we have so many people attending this talk? And this is probably because Agile has created a buzz. And just for proving that what I did once, or which was just recently, I thought of just any term and which came to my mind and combined it with Agile and searched for it on the internet. And, well, probably you can imagine, but you will find really matches with every combination with Agile. And this tells me this is just a characteristic that's used by a lot of people for bringing probably a positive draw onto whatever they try to sell. And, well, please don't ask me what all these different terms mean. I have really no clue. For example, I have no clue what Agile investing should mean, or another, to me at least, funny term or combination is Agile Ajax. So, of course, I know Ajax and I know Agile, but I don't know what the combination really should mean. So, again, it just means a lot of people are talking about it, and probably also a lot of people are doing it or trying it, and they're, well, maybe also struggling with it, using Agile in different circumstances, and this is what I want to talk about here today. But before I go into those different pitfalls, first of all, I want to set a little bit the base what Agile really is if it's not Agile Ajax and Agile investing. So, first of all, the basics of everything we do in Agile is actually the Agile value system. So no matter what kind of Agile methodology you're using, Scrum or XP or Crystal or whatever, the basics for all of that is a common Agile value system, and the value system is defined in the Agile manifesto. I've provided the website for the manifesto there on the slide, so it's agilemanifesto.org. I don't want to explain the manifesto here in detail because that's not the topic of the talk. However, I want to point you to that website in order to look things up whenever you are in doubt or whenever you are in maybe a not so typical Agile environment. Maybe you're not working on a web application, but on embedded application and in a distributed setting and whatever kind of environment you're having, and you won't find a direct advice from a specific methodology. You can then always go back and look at the Agile manifesto with the value system and the principles which I will show just in a minute. I only want to point out one thing from the value system because this has led also to many pitfalls, which is the second value comparison that's part of the manifesto. This one says working software is more valuable to us than comprehensive documentation. And the way people have often understood that was by, well, if I'm Agile, I don't do any documentation. This went even that far that some people say, well, we don't do anything else in terms of Agile, but we don't document, and therefore we are Agile, which just doesn't make any sense. Actually, if you look into a real Agile team, you will find that there is a lot of documentation out there. It might look funny at first because it's more like things hanging on the wall or pictures taken and distributed on the wiki and stuff like that. But actually, there's really a lot of stuff documented. And the thing is, we are guided by this value comparison by focusing on working software, but we provide the documentation we need in order to have working software in place. So documentation is not the goal in its own, but we do whatever we think we need to do for providing a working software. So this might be already one of the pitfalls. Okay, I mentioned earlier that the value system or this core of the manifesto is just one page of it, this value system, and a lot of people only look at that part of it, and I want to bring to your attention also the second page or second part of the manifesto, which are the Agile principles. And this is often really a very good way whenever you are in doubt and you find that the Agile methodology you have chosen is not helping you in your current situation, then please go back to those 12 principles and use them as guidelines and come up with an Agile methodology that helps you in your circumstance. But again, I don't want to focus really on the manifesto here. This is really more for ensuring how this all is motivated and, well, the things that are often in the way when people apply Agile. Yeah, I guess that's good enough for getting started, and which leads me also to the very first pitfall. And although I don't really have a numbering here because of, I think this is more important than the other, still the first pitfall is the one I see the most often and which I think is the most dangerous one. I call that first pitfall practices over values. And what I mean with that is that often I see teams that, well, they try to follow an Agile process, but they have not understood the Agile value system and those principles, so they don't understand the culture of agility, but what they do instead is they try to apply all the practices that they read or know that are part of their methodology without really considering how it fits their needs. And let me put this to an extreme. Basically, you can do pair programming in any kind of process. So pair programming is just one practice, and you can even follow a waterfall approach and still do pair programming, and you will not be Agile because just of the practice of pair programming. So this is one side of this pitfall, practices over values. The flip side of it, which I see often too, which is the other half of that pitfall, is that some people are insisting on a specific practice just because somebody's telling them that's very important. We could stick with pair programming, but could use as well another one. And they insist on using that practice although this practice is not working in their specific environment. And that's actually the main reason why I started this talk with the Agile Manifesto, the value system, and the principles, because this should really be your guideline. And in case one practice doesn't work for you, well, the first thing is try it. And try it for several iterations. Something between 3 and 5 iterations is a good time period to try something and see if it's working. But if it's not working, then you need to do something else. And what I'm doing with my teams, first of all, we examine that we understand what kind of goals or objectives this practice is aiming for. If we stick again to pair programming, you might come up with things like, well, we have the continuous review if we use pair programming, and we have knowledge transfer between people because always 2 people are working on the system, on the same code. We might come up with something like probably the discipline is higher because we have always, this communication going on between 2 people and a vivid reminder next to us whenever we are doing something. And then the next step, after we have figured out these goals, then we talk about or find out if these are also our own goals, and if those goals are important to us. And if they are, then we have to come up with a different practice or maybe even several practices that work in our own